Hello, and welcome to the next episode of The Sober Connection with me, your host, Abi King. But today I have a guest who is over in the UK, actually in the Isle of Man. He is somebody that used to drink excessively, working in the construction industry and traveling the world, and had a bit of an epiphany when his son asked him the question, "Are you an alcoholic?" That is something that no parent wants to hear. I've kind of heard the same thing from my kids as well, so I understand exactly what that feeling would have been like. He has since turned his life around and now helps other men as a sobriety coach and helps men shift their mindset, get sober, and become the best versions of themselves for themselves and their families. So my guest today is Luke Jones, and it's nice to meet you, Luke. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, thanks, Abby. Thanks for having me.
Good. No worries, no worries. So I usually start off these conversations just with a bit of a background on your drinking career, and obviously, I've just explained probably what the main moment was for you realizing that you might need to quit drinking. But can you just kind of talk the listeners through your drinking career and what got you to this point where you're at now?
Yeah, cool, no worries. So, I'm the oldest of four children. I grew up in a small town just outside Bristol in the UK, in the southwest. And as with many of us in the UK, drinking such a big part of the culture. I started drinking, I would say, roughly 13, 14, and we love our cider in the West Country. So yeah, my first memories of drinking was drinking white cider in a field with a group of friends, and it was purely just to fit in and fit in with the group, and it's what everyone else does, and that was just what we did at that age. It's as you well know, it's so ingrained in the culture.
Hmm.
So drinking white cider in a field, rolling around with my friends. Alcohol and drugs was always around in my house. I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 82, but yeah, obviously my teenage years were in the 90s, and I think they've got a lot to answer for, haven't they, really? The big rave scene, big dance scene. There was lots of parties, and that really set the foundation of what was to come.
Hmm.
So when I left school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I ended up going traveling, and I ended up backpacking around Australia, New Southeast Asia, and that's where my drinking really took off. Obviously with the backpacking scene, there's a lot of partying, and I remember when I come back from my first trip, I come back to the UK and I started suffering really bad with anxiety and panic attacks, and I started drinking even more. I started leveling up even more. Obviously, there was lots of partying when I was backpacking, and then I used to start using in my early 20s. I remember using alcohol to cope with a lot of anxiety. So I come back and I met my wife, the girl that would obviously go on to be my wife, and we had a very similar outlook on life. We loved life. We loved to travel, and she had a real zest for life, just like me. And we went traveling again. We went to South America. We actually went to New Zealand, where you're now living, USA, Mexico. And this is when the drugs really, drink and drugs really just start to escalate. And we were just using more and more and more. But I remember on that trip, we went to India, and that was a big highlight for me. Looking back at uh, my drinking career, as you just said, I remember getting to India, and obviously it's not a big thing in their culture. It depends where you are in India, but I remember the southern states of India, Goa, and obviously there's a big party scene there, isn't there? You could drink there, but in the northern part of India, around Delhi, when we first landed, we couldn't get a drink. And I remember we were just going from restaurant to restaurant in Delhi trying to find alcohol, and they were just like, no, we didn't serve it. And I was just like, what the hell? So that was a big highlight for me looking back. At the time, I remember thinking, what the hell is wrong with these people? Why didn't they like drinking?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so obviously that was a big warning sign. Looking back at the time, I thought they had a problem, but obviously we were the ones with the problem. But I remember at this point, I was drinking daily. I remember coming back from that trip and bought a house. My wife fell pregnant, and of course, when you start getting all these responsibilities as well, you start self-medicating more, start using it as a coping mechanism. And in the UK, obviously, it's any excuse to drink, birthdays, barbecues, funerals, etc. And the whole culture of, we work hard, we play hard. And there were a couple of other examples. Obviously, there was the drinking in India example that stands out for me. But I remember one night we went to firework night here in the UK, and it was winter, so I had a coat on and I had cans that I was just drinking at the inside of my jacket, and I thought nothing of it. And my brother-in-law said to me, "Luke, are you drinking?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "God, mate, it's any excuse, isn't it?" And I just laughed at it and thought nothing of it, but I just carried on drinking out the inside of my coat, thinking nothing of it. And looking back now, there was so many other times when life just began to roll around where we could get a drink on day trips out. I always used to make sure, we went to a pub for lunch so I could have a drink. Whatever family event we went to, I was always looking at the bar. Where could I get that pint? Where could I take the edge off? If I was feeling a bit anxious, if I was feeling a bit socially awkward or whatever. And then another big one was definitely COVID. I remember when COVID came, we had nothing to do. And I remember we bought a hot tub. And then when we bought the hot tub, I started drinking a lot of Captain Morgan's rum. And I just remember being in the hot tub and drinking rum after rum after rum. And in the beginning, it was just a normal shot size drink. And in the end, it was just going up and up and up and up. And it was getting worse and worse and worse. Yeah. And you've already said, of course, about my son asking me if I was an alcoholic. That was a massive thing for me. That was a real big thing. I just remember one day I was about 40 years old, midlife, and thinking, is this it? Waking up with another hangover, in that repetitive, that cycle, that loop that so many are stuck in. I started hiding cans around the house. I started drinking more and more on my own. Mm-hmm. I think in the beginning, it's obviously going back to the days of rolling around in a field drinking cider. It's a bit of fun. You're with your friends, but in the end, it can get very, very dark. And that's basically the point that I got to, Abby. I think that's about it, really. And obviously the tipping point was the question for my son, because I could see the way he was looking at me. He was looking at everything completely different. And in my comfort zone of my house, my home, I thought I was safe. I thought it was all fine. And then all of a sudden someone, your nearest and dearest, pointing something like that out to you. It's like, wow, it was a massive wake-up call. Yeah. My father-in-law was a very healthy man. He wasn't alcoholic or anything, but he died last November, and he was fit and healthy. And within a year of getting cancer, he had gone. And my last conversation with him was, he kept saying to me, "Luke, life is short. Luke, life is short." And it was a big wake-up call for me. We only get one vessel, we get one body. And I think so many of us, we get stuck in these subconscious habits and we neglect our body. And I just remember looking at him thinking, I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to keep on going around doing the same old crap. I'm going to turn things around. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to be a better role model for my children. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And that's why I put out content every day, being a sobriety coach. And that's basically brought me to where I am today. Sorry, that was a very long way of telling you.
No, that's great. Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, it's never in a nutshell when you're talking about a
exactly.
career of 30 years of drinking. So it's, you take as long as you need. So how old was your son when he said that to you?
It was a couple of years ago. So I was trying to moderate for a good couple of years. Mm-hmm. As you probably well know, so many people will say to you, just moderate, just cut back, everything in moderation, Luke. But it's never that easy. It's exhausting, bloody exhausting. And I get so many dads contacting me as a sobriety coach now saying, "Oh yeah, why don't you just moderate?" I moderate. I only drink at the weekends. And I tried it for so long, and it was just bloody exhausting, because I was either thinking, I was either drinking or thinking about a drink, and you're just in that constant cycle. And then when you do finally let go, and you sort of, you're happy, you're a lot happier in your own skin. Everything, you see everything clearly. You haven't got that mental exhaustion. But he must have been 12. I would say about 12. It was a couple of years ago, two
Yeah.
or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were actually talking about it the other day, and he can't even remember saying it, but I can, because it was such a big standout moment for me.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think yeah, when your kids sort of notice, that's when you I was the same. So I started trying to quit just after I turned 40. And I did a few half-assed efforts, and then that was in the April, and then in the November, my daughter, she's 16 now, but she was 9, and she was like, "Mummy, I don't like the sound of your voice when you drink." And it wasn't that I was scary or aggressive or anything like that. I was just loud and slurry, and she just didn't like it. And it still took me another 3.5 years to actually quit, but that was definitely when I sort of got to the point where, like, holy shit, like, I need to take this seriously now, because nobody wants to be the parent that freaks their kid out. If I mean, if there's something that you can do to change that, then why wouldn't you? So yeah, I mean, it's so important. Like, I'll forever be grateful to her for saying that, even though she's sort of sick of me talking about it. But it changed my life. It, like, literally changed my life. So yeah, and I guess the same for you with your son. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But also
exactly.
sad that they had to get to that point to say something. So yeah, but
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people speak about rock bottom, don't they? I never really had a rock bottom moment.
mm,
I'd always class myself as a grey area drinker. But I think if you can nip it in the bud and you don't let it get that bad, and getting those signs, there was a few different things that happened to me as well in the last few years. But all these little signs, all these little seeds were being planted, and then you become sober aware, then like sober curious, and you go through that whole journey, and then through listening to podcasts like your own, listening to those audiobooks, going on a self-development journey,
mm,
you educate yourself, and then once you know it, you can't unknow it, Abby, can you?
yeah,
And
exactly.
and it's like that curtain, you open up that veil and you're like, holy crap, what have I been doing for the last, like you said, 3 decades?
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, it's an amazing journey, and it's one that I'm truly, truly passionate about now.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. So so what do you think that your biggest challenges have been that you faced in the last few months since becoming sober?
So the big ones that stand out are obviously cravings, and whose willpower struggles. They're always going to come up, and especially in social situations. Uh, Much of my social life was built up around drinking for the last 25, 30 odd years.
Hmm.
Uh, you can't just undo those decades of social conditioning and programming of the brain. It's not that instant fix, is it? And that's why so many people end up falling off the wagon, going back to drinking. So many people know what they need to do, but it's actually doing it. It's actually
Yeah,
taking the action. That's the hard part.
yeah.
I obviously, there's FOMO, missing out. In my early days, I really worried about losing friends,
Hmm.
and being seen as less fun. Uh, and I think with sobriety, you've really got to, you go through a whole identity shift, and figuring out who you really are without alcohol, and learning to become happy in your own skin. And it's so daunting
Yeah,
in the beginning, and overwhelming. So I know it's really cliche and corny, but we always say one day at a time, but it's so true.
hmm,
I'm always telling clients that you need to take one day at a time. Never look too far forward, because it can become overwhelming, and then you're just going to revert back to those old habits anyway.
yeah,
Uh, I think living with boredom as well. You just got to learn to fill that void and that gap where you drank all the time, and it was just built up over so many years. There's obviously a lot of self doubt there as well. You're always going to keep questioning yourself, and I've heard you speak about it before, on this podcast. You got to sort of let go of your old self, haven't you? It's sort of
yeah,
letting go, and starting a new chapter, reinventing yourself, I think that's an amazing thing, and I think that's a really exciting part of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so many people, especially men that I speak to, they get to 40 and they just think that that's it. They can't change, and it's going to be like this for another 40 years. But I flipped the script. I'm looking at it completely different. I'm excited about the future, and I've built all these new routines that have obviously helped me with the cravings, with the willpower. It was so deeply ingrained in everything that I did. I remember coming home from work every day, and I'd always walk into the kitchen, open the fridge, and automatically look on that top shelf where all my lagers were stacked. It's just what I did. It was part of me. But so now my life, yeah, is completely different. Obviously, alcohol-free lagers have been a really big thing for me
Mm.
as well. I know they get a bad rap, but they've really helped me, especially in social situations. A lot of people don't even know that I'm not drinking. I've been out quite a few times now since going sober this year, and people don't even they're half cut anyway. They're quite drunk, and they've said to me, "Luke, I thought you've quit drinking. What are you doing?" And I said, "This is alcohol free, mate." Is it? And yeah,
Well,
I
give us
drink a
a
lot.
try. And then they went,
Yeah,
that's just some
exactly.
money. And you're like, no, take
Yeah,
it home. This is more expensive than your stuff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I've definitely found that's a big part of it, Abby, isn't it? It's being part of the tribe, part of the gang, if you like. We're social creatures. We don't like to be the outcast.
Yeah.
And I think as you go through and become sober, when the positives start outweighing the negatives, and you can see ahead, you can play that tape forward, as we say in sobriety. You you start looking for all the positives rather than just dwelling on those negatives.
Yeah.
A couple of big examples for me as well, going through in the last couple of years of trying to moderate, is we're big darts fans. We love the PDC darts, and I remember going back in the day. We went to watch the Premier League darts, and I'd always wanted to see Phil Taylor, one of my big idols. And I remember going to watch him play, and I can't even remember the night. We got absolutely hammered. The darts is a big party, and I can't really even remember the night. And a couple of years ago, when I was started to become sober curious, I said to my wife, I said, right, when we go to Blackpool, I'm going to drive. And she said, "You're going to drive to the darts?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "We'll take the kids. We'll go as a family." She was like, "Wow, okay." So we went, and it was an absolutely brilliant night. I had an absolutely great time, and I remember every dart that was thrown. I remember all the matches, and we actually got moved to the VIP section. I actually did a fist pump with Michael Van Gerwen, and it was an amazing night. And I remember driving home that night, and I remember thinking, God, I can have a good time without alcohol. So that
Hmm.
was a little bit of evidence.
Yeah.
And another example was we went to Twickenham. I've go to Twickenham once or twice a year to watch England play rugby in the autumn internationals normally. And again, I said, "No, I'm going to drive." I said, "We'll take the kids as a family, and I'll drive." And again, my wife couldn't believe it. But we went there, and yeah, England played Japan, and I remember it was a brilliant game, and I remembered the whole thing. Again, normally you go there, and we'd be straight in the Weatherspoons, we'd be on it, and we'd have 5 or 6 pints before we even got to the stadium.
Yeah.
So all these little things were happening during my time of trying to moderate, and then obviously this year I bit the bullet. I did dry January,
Hmm.
and I really enjoyed it. And I think it's, when you're in your early sobriety as well, to do something like Stop October or Dry January is really good, because it gives you a really good excuse. And that's what a lot of people struggle with in their early sobriety. When they're out in social situations, they'll get loads of stick. There'll be people who'll be saying, "Why aren't you drinking?" You say, "Well, I'm doing Dry January. I'm doing Stop October."
Yeah.
So that was a really good starting point for me, and that built
Yeah.
my confidence in those social situations. And I said to my wife, I said, "I'm going to carry on." I said, "I'm really enjoying this. I feel a lot better." And then I remember getting to 3 months, and then I felt really good. Obviously I've done a hell of a lot of reading on sobriety now, and Alcohol Explained by William Porter was a big one for me.
Mm,
And he
same.
explains, yes, he really dives into the science of drinking, and it's an amazing book. And I remember he says, yeah, one of the big points is 3 months because everything in your body neutralizes. Your body is at complete homeostasis. It's not fighting at all against this toxin, which essentially is poison, and you feel so much better. And from those 3 months, I've just felt better and better and better. So yeah, that would be, in a nutshell, that's the things that I've. Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent again.
No, no, not at all. It's all good. No, that's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, Alcohol Explained is that was I always found I read This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. That was one of the
Yeah,
first sort of not anecdotal quit lit books that I read. But then, yeah, William Porter, that just, I still didn't quit straight away after listening to that. I listened to it when I used to hike up the hills around where I used to live. Used to just put my headphones in and just stomp up some hills. But yeah, I think I still probably took me about another 7 months to fully quit from listening to that, but it was 100%. It was the game changer for me. I've always said that that book was the game changer, and then also the Huberman podcast that came out, Andrew Huberman. Just because you just can't argue with those facts, it's just it's scientific, and those the quit lit, you can laugh about the funny stories about getting drunk and falling into it, off the side of a curb into the road. We've all done that, but yeah, that's scientific stuff where it's like, this is what's happening to your brain, and it's like, oh shit. You can't yeah, it's very, very sobering. No, excuse the pun, but yeah. So with your coaching, how do you think, obviously I feel that the New Zealand drinking culture is very similar to the UK drinking culture. So, how do you think that the drinking culture affects men differently to women? So, obviously, you deal predominantly, most of your clients are men, is that right? Dads?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, what do
yeah.
you kind of come up against like more regularly with that? Whereas probably I deal with more females potentially.
Yes, there's a big stigma around men being the tough guys.
Hmm.
Obviously, a lot of masculine energy with men. So I was talking to a client the other day, and he was telling me a story about obviously his summer here in the UK at the moment, and he had just been away on holiday for the first time. Obviously, trying to break sober. He's working with me. He's been trying to moderate for a while, and he was telling me that his friends were kept on saying to him, "Why aren't you drinking? If you're not going to drink, then we don't want you here." And these
Oh,
are
wow.
lifelong, yeah, I know, and these are lifelong friends, Abby. And I was just
Yeah.
like, wow. But I've experienced very similar things now, and it can get quite nasty. But what I've found with my social situations is that when your friends are sober in the beginning, when you first go out, they're like, "Wow, I think it's brilliant what you're doing. You're doing a really good thing for you and your family, etc." And then
Hmm.
they have a couple of pints, and it can get nasty. Some of them are the same. They'll be like, "Fair play to you, Luke," but then some people can get quite nasty. So it's a real big thing for dads. My wife has also cut back on her drinking a hell of a lot, and she hasn't had the same sort of comments and stuff from her friends. Now, I'm not
Oh,
saying that it's not easy for women. Of course, it's really hard for women as well. But I think with the lads and the whole tribe thing, being part of the group, that plays a real big part. So definitely with men, and uh, the whole stigma around being able to handle a drink as well as a man is a big thing. So I'll get a lot of friends saying, "Oh, come on, can't you handle your drink anymore? What the hell's wrong with you, Luke?" I think a lot of people, obviously, there's the whole boring thing as well, where we
hmm.
get a lot of stick for being boring if we're not drinking,
Yeah.
and a lot of people that I speak to, they're very scared about losing their mates, and that is a massive common fear
Mhm.
because so much of their life has been built up in these social situations around drinking. So many of the men that I've spoken to, whenever you meet anyone, the first thing they want to do is go down the pub. It's
Yeah.
just because it's so ingrained in our society. Uh, with women, they're quite happy to go for a coffee. But
Hmm.
if you say to a guy, "Oh no, I'll just meet you for a coffee," it's going to be like, "What?"
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
get so you get that as well. Yeah. And drinking is seen as a way to relax as well and have fun. And many men, they just can't see themselves socializing and unwinding without it.
Hmm.
Uh, so they they see it as missing out, and they really, really believe that they're going to be left out and they're going to be left on the sidelines. Be that black sheep, be the outcast.
Yeah.
So that this is why I say you've really, really got to want it. Your why for changing this has got to be so strong, because you're going to come up against those things. But when it's that strong, and you know that a life on the other side of it is going to be that good, it's going to be amazing, it's going to be life changing for yourself and then your family and the whole ripple effect. That's when real change happens. You've really, really got to want to do it, because
Yeah.
you're going to come up against so many hurdles. It's not just about the willpower. The whole social thing is the biggest part of it. And there's always a tipping point on one's journey, like we were talking about with the rock bottom earlier. But that's the thing I would say about men, and I still get it now. I'm 7 months sober now, but I still get, oh, you coming down the pub? Literally a few days ago, Abby, someone said to me from work, "Are you coming down the pub?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll be there, no worries." And then straight away they said, "Oh yeah, but you're not going to be drinking that Guinness Zero crap, are you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm still drinking with you." And they said, "Oh yeah, but you're going to make us feel bad. You're going to," and you're basically shining a light on their problem. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
but
Exactly.
and that is one of the big things for me as well, Abby. Is not being so self-righteous.
Hmm.
Not getting up on your box and starting to preach. But when you're this passionate about it, when it's been such a big life-changing thing for yourself, it's so hard
Yeah.
not to.
Yeah.
So what I try and do now is just go for a couple of drinks, and then when all the conversations start getting repetitive and they start talking about the same, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know
When it,
exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, you've got you've got your get out plan, you know where you're going, and that feeling of walking out of a pub with your head held high, thinking, I'm going to go home now, I'm going to see my kids, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to feel amazing, I'm going to have a productive morning. There's
Yeah.
no feeling like it. I talk about it now when I get goosebumps, because that's how much it means to me, and it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. What do you think some of the biggest myths are about men and alcohol that you've come across? I mean, obviously, I mean, you've just talked about some of them, but yeah, there are obviously quite a lot of misconceptions about. I mean, it's not just men; it's about alcohol in general, really. But the whole sober people are boring, always. I always talk about that because I was so bad with people. If somebody was sitting there not drinking, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near them. You just go to the other side of the room because like you said, it shines a light on you. Like, how can they be sitting here and enjoy, she looks like she's having a good time, but she hasn't got she's not drinking a poison. What's wrong with her, So, obviously, clearly that's a myth. I have a way more productive and fulfilled life than I ever did when I was drinking. So that's a myth that we can squash straight away. But what else do you think specifically targeted towards men and alcohol?
Yeah, obviously I've spoke about the whole stigma behind being a real man, being a tough guy. I remember I was working in someone's house about 5 years ago, and he told me that he didn't drink, and it was one of the first people that I met that didn't drink, and I was just like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I didn't say that, but that's what I thought, and I thought, "You're really weird. Why don't you want to?" And I remember saying to him, "Lee, why don't you drink?" And he said, "I just don't like it, Luke." And I was just like, "What?" I said, "What do you do when you go out?" I remember saying it. It sounds so terrible now. Oh my God. And I just thought he was really strange and weird, because it's what everyone does. But oh my
Yeah.
God, look at me now. It's so funny, isn't it? How things changed. And there was a couple other people that I met as well. And I just, it was like I didn't trust them. I thought they were alien like. They were so
Mm,
different. How can you enjoy yourself and go out? And yeah, it's just mad how
yeah.
things have changed. But I think a big thing with men is the vulnerability side. They don't want to let their guard down. They don't want to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
And yeah, with vulnerability, it is connection. When you let your guard down, when you open up, people, other men, people that you're speaking to, they are gonna be like, wow, he's got the same problems that I've got. He thinks the same way as I do, and you will make that connection.
Yeah.
And I think with women, they can do that a lot better than men. They open
Hmm.
up, they can talk to each other, they can have a good cry. Whereas blokes, they just can't do it. and and obviously as soon as they're out, they drink,
Yeah.
and and with alcohol, it numbs everything out, and it suppresses those emotions. I think it's just so tough for men because, like I said earlier, they can't just go out for a coffee and have a real
Mm.
meaningful conversation. They end up drinking, and then they just go around in that loop. So with my coaching, I always encourage men to have those open conversations and normalize um, speaking about your emotions, your stress, and your setbacks. Obviously, in a sober environment, not in a down the pub environment, and that is where so many men talk and open up when they're in a pub.
Yeah.
So they're never going to get that space to do it and vent. But by being the best version of themselves and by leading, but by example, Abby, as I've spoke about, it's going to create that huge ripple effect.
Yeah.
And by doing what I'm doing and being vulnerable, I hope that opens the space for other men to do the same. I feel like what I'm doing is breaking a family pattern as well, like a family cycle. I know a lot of sober coaches talk about it, but my granddad drank heavily. My dad drank heavily, and my parents ended up their marriage broke down through alcohol and drugs in the
Right.
end. So I feel like if you can break that cycle, uh, we spoke earlier about my son asking me about being an alcoholic. Uh, we were away on holiday in the UK recently, and I was having a chat with my mother-in-law, and she said, "Oh, just talking to Max, and he was saying that he's really proud of what you're doing." And I was just like, wow, that's what I'm doing this for to hear things like that. It was such a
Yeah.
big thing,
Yeah.
it was massive. And it's a very cliche thing to say, I know, but as coaches, we work on ourselves first, don't we? So you are your first client, and when you work on yourself, when you fill your own cup up, then you can give back, then you can be the example, be that role model, and that's what it's all about, really.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely to have your kids proud of you is pretty amazing, isn't it? And then that will always be your why. Why, like why would you ever risk that? I mean, I'm sort of 3+ years sober now, nearly 3.5, and I can't imagine ever going back to drinking because I can't imagine the look of disappointment on my kids' faces if they were to ever see me drinking again. It would just absolutely kill me. So yeah, it's just not worth it. We talked about masculinity and how it sort of makes things quite hard to ask for help. Do you think it's changing? Do you think things are changing in that respect, or do you think it's still, I mean, the clients that you deal with, are they becoming more open to being vulnerable with you?
Do you mean the whole stigma around drinking and around men?
Yeah, well, we were sort of saying about how, there's that masculinity of people, guys don't feel like they can ask for help, but you being vulnerable, the idea with behind that is that then gets people to open up. And I'm exactly the same. That's why I'm an open book, because I feel like if people can relate to your story or my story, then that will kind of make them go like, oh, I could talk about my side of that, because it creates this non-judgmental space, right? So, I've been here and I've done all of this stuff and I'm quite open to talk about it. So are you open to talk about your side of things? And I know for women they are, but yeah, are you finding that guys are opening up a little bit more in that respect, or still quite hard to get through when from a point of view from your coaching?
Yes, definitely, 100%. It's definitely getting better, but
Yeah.
I don't know how many years, how many decades it's actually going to take. Obviously, things don't change overnight,
Hmm.
but it's definitely getting better. I know social media gets a real bad rap, but with all the content and all the stuff out there, going back 5 years ago, all the sober content and all the vulnerability content, etc., all the mental health talk, it just wasn't there. So it's definitely getting better. Obviously, people like myself putting out content like we do, hopefully, we're spreading the message. We're saying it's okay to be vulnerable, guys. It's okay to open up.
Hmm.
You know, um, it's not all about being a real man and being that leader. being, of course, it's about being a leader, but leaders can be vulnerable.
Can be
People,
vulnerable. Yeah.
yeah, and it like you just said, it's breaking that whole stigma. So it's definitely getting better. We're definitely not where it needs to be, but it's definitely getting better, and it's going the right way. And I think social media is good in that respect. Of course,
Yeah.
like I said, it does get a bad rap, but it's going the right way, Abby, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think social media definitely has its pros and cons. There's definitely a lot that you can learn from social media, but yeah, you've just got to make sure that you filter out the shit as well, so that you're not getting
Yeah.
like overwhelmed with stuff that isn't relevant. What inspired you to become a sobriety coach? So you
Well,
said before when we were talking before we started recording, so you were a mindset coach before a sobriety
yes,
coach? Yeah?
yes.
Yeah.
So while I was trying to moderate, when I hit 40 and I was had that sort of, you could say, midlife crisis, or an awakening. I was just like, yeah, am I going to do this for another 40 years? Keep going around in the same uh, old loops. And I said, right, I'm going to do something different. I've had enough. So I actually saw a advert on Facebook about digital marketing, and I started getting into digital marketing, being an affiliate marketer, and that's where I found coaching. I was coached myself, and then I saw the power of coaching and what it did for me. I started listening to podcasts. I never listened to the radio at work anymore. I started listening to audiobooks on Amazon all the time, and just filling my head all day with personal development. And
Mhm.
then I've always been interested in the mind and psychology and stuff anyway. And that's when I did my accreditation as a life coach. I did my NLP master practitioner course and absolutely loved it. And then this year, obviously going sober, I spoke to so many coaches in the industry, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm a sober coach, and I think you'd be good at it. You've got that story as well." And then when I spoke to them about obviously what my son had said and how it was really changing my life, I thought, wow, why don't I give it a go? So that is where the journey started, and that is how I'm here today, Abby. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. Do you think that there's any common themes or struggles that you notice among the men that you work with?
Common themes. It's definitely that identity loss. Many men struggle with it without
Yeah.
alcohol. I was talking to a client the other day, and he said he's been trying to moderate, but as soon as he got to this social situation, it was at a barbecue. It's obviously summer here in the UK at the moment, and he panicked and went straight to the fridge and grabbed a drink, took the edge off, and then he could talk to people.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's such a common theme among many men that I speak to. Uh, they know what they've got to do, but it's actually doing it. We
Hmm.
all know we've got to eat healthy. We all know we've got to exercise, but when it comes to doing it, it's a different thing, isn't it? Of
Yeah.
course. So that's a real common theme. Uh, Grabbing that first drink. So many people that I speak to, they feel like alcohol gives them confidence, but of course it just gives them that fake confidence.
Mm.
They really believe that they need it to fit in, to be able to take the edge off, to loosen up. So this is one of the biggest challenges for me as a sobriety coach. Uh, Obviously, work stress is a massive thing.
Yeah.
People use it to relax, and that was one of the biggest things for me. It wasn't so much social, to be honest. Of course, it's a big part of it. That's one of the many parts of the jigsaw. But for me, I worked so hard. I'd come home from work and I was so tense, and I'd have that first can, and it's just the whole routine in Abby. You get so stuck
Mm.
in that way. That even the sound of the can opening, the glug 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 as you're pouring it out, everything. It's
Yeah.
all
I
part of
can
that
imagine it
routine.
now. I can
Yeah.
literally visualize it now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just so ingrained in your brain, isn't it? It really
Mm.
is.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like even when you were saying before about how you used to come in and just straight away just go to the kitchen, to the fridge, to the top shelf, it was almost like it was an unconscious part of your day. You know, it was just what you did when you got out of the car when you finished work. So it's getting to that point where you, instead of going to the top, I mean, I've never really been a tea drinker, but when I first quit, anytime I got a craving, I'd put the kettle on and make a herbal tea. And so sometimes at the start of my sobriety journey, I was drinking 10, 12 cups of tea a day.
Yeah.
I was smashing the herbal teas, but you know, it was that was my preference, because even if I had a craving, even the amount of time that it took to boil the kettle would be enough for me for that craving to go. So you know, it worked really well for me. But yeah, it's just
Yeah,
yeah, people
definitely.
having those
This is
things.
what I say to clients: everything is temporary. This too shall pass. So, like you said, I used to coming home, I just always grab that can because it's that easy fix with alcohol,
Mhm.
isn't it? It's the quick fix. So now, whenever I get that craving, whenever I feel uptight when I come home from work, I'll just go for a walk. I'll literally go for a walk around the block, and straight away I feel so much better. It's
Yeah,
it's not such a quick fix as alcohol. That's why it's the easy fix, alcohol, isn't it? Because you just grab that drink and bang, it's straight down the hatchet, and you get
yeah,
that instant fix. And then when you, again, like walking out of the pub, when you get back from that walk from around the block, you feel so much better. Like I dealt with the craving. I feel so much better. I'm not going to be hungover tomorrow. I'm not going to feel like crap. I'm not going to eat a load of junk food later, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to sleep well
yeah,
tonight.
yeah,
So all of these things. So yeah, just dealing with those cravings and knowing what to do is a massive thing. Obviously, there's the loss of confidence. That there's the social pressure that we spoke about. There's the fear of missing out. There is all these things. Uh, Another thing I would always say to people as well: surround yourself with the right people. Your environment is a massive, massive part of this.
hmm,
Get being held accountable is obviously a massive thing. So in your early days, going down the pub might not be a good idea for you. I carried on doing it. I sort of white knuckled it through, and I'd obviously moved to the Isle of Man as well. So I wanted to carry on trying to make new friends, trying to make connections.
yeah,
But definitely moving away from my old group of friends has definitely helped me in
hmm,
my journey.
yeah,
Whenever I do go back to Bristol and see them, obviously I still get a lot of stick, but now they're really starting to accept the new me. And what you'll find is as well, a lot of your old friends, as you well know, they're not your real friends. They're just your drinking buddies anyway.
yeah,
Your real friends will show up and they'll stick around.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, it,
definitely.
yeah, it is a massive part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's the common themes that most of my clients that I speak to struggle with.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right. Okay. And so you're so obviously you and your wife, when you were back when you were drinking, you were both pretty hearty drinkers. So what's the situation now? So your wife still drinks but not as much, or how's that going?
Yeah, so obviously she's cut back a hell of a lot. I said to her in the beginning, we spoke about environment. I said, get the drink out of the house. And she
Yeah.
said, well, yeah, but we might want. I said, no. I said, I can't moderate. I've tried it for years. Get the stuff out of the house, please. So now there's no lager in the house because if it was there, I would drink it. It's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you're on a diet, isn't it? Getting food out of the house, getting all these treats out of the house. If
Yeah.
you've got to walk down the shop, there's a lot less chance of you doing it. Of
Yeah.
course, it's
Yeah.
not there on tap, if you like. So we got all the we got all the alcohol out of the house, and she has cut down a hell of a lot. Uh, she still drinks every so often, but
Mhm.
like I just said, we were on holiday recently, and I said, "Oh, are you going to drink then?" And she said, "Well, but and I always say to her, look, I'm not going to be judgmental. If you want to drink, then drink. I don't want to be the the sober husband that holds you back. If you want to let your hair down, if you want to have a glass of wine, whatever, do what you got to do."
Yeah.
She had one. She said, "Oh, one night, oh, I'm gonna have a drink. I'm getting a bit bored because that's another thing as well." Uh, she was getting bored of just drinking lime and sodas all the time, and
Yeah.
there was
Fair
only
enough.
one. Fair enough, exactly. And there was only one alcohol-free lager on in this bar we were drinking at. So she said, "Right, I'm gonna have a cider." I said, "Yeah, okay." So she had a Thatcher's and she drank about 3 or 4 sips of it, and she said, "Oh my god, it's making me feel horrible. I don't want it anymore." And I was like, "Oh wow, it's brilliant."
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and and she gave it to one of our friends, and that was that. So yeah, she's not completely sober yet. I don't think she still has the odd drink, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's where she's at anyway, Abby. Yeah.
So do you think that so back when you were drinking, so for me, my ex-husband, he would get on the piss. Like, don't get me wrong, he could definitely drink, but on a general, Monday to Thursday, he might have a couple of beers every day, but once he'd had dinner, that was it. Whereas for me, once I'd had dinner, I was cracking open a bottle of wine. And we used to have a restaurant, and I used to come home from work at like 10 o'clock at night with a bottle of wine. God knows why. I didn't need it at 10 o'clock at night, but I'd crack it open and I'd say, "Do you want a glass?" And he'd sort of be like, "Yeah, go on then." But I was enabling him. 100% I was enabling him. And or he was drinking to help me out so that, because I would have quite easily drunk the bottle by myself. So do you think that, is there a situation like that with you, where, like when you were drinking, were you maybe more of an enabler? So now your wife's kind of not feeling that pressure to drink. Do you know what I mean? Like I definitely put pressure on him to drink, I think, because he didn't need to drink, whereas I did.
Yes, definitely. We've
Yeah.
spoke about this a lot this year. As I've gone sober, we've both said, yeah, I was definitely the driving force behind it.
Yeah.
But she definitely didn't help Abby. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
both it was both of us. I
Yeah.
remember I'd always try with the whole moderation thing. I would always say, right, I'm not going to drink in the week, and then we'll drink on Friday. And it was always Monday and Tuesday I was okay, and then Wednesday it got to that midweek at work, and I'd always be like, oh, I could really do with a drink now. Yeah, uh, and all the information in William Porter's book, it says, doesn't it? After these couple of days of not having a drink, your body's sort of craving it. And
Yeah.
I always remember on the Wednesday, it was either me at lunchtime or sometimes her as well. She'd text and say, "Have we got any? Have we got have we got any red in the cupboard? Shall I grab one on the way home?" And then if it wasn't Wednesday, it was always Thursday.
Yeah. Right.
And then depending on what we were doing throughout the week, but sometimes we could wait till Friday, but it was always creep in. Obviously, going back 10 years, it was every day. I was drinking every day, but as I approached 40, I was definitely starting to cut back.
Hmm.
But it's just like I said, moderation does not work for some people,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, for most people, I think. And what I found this year is so many people, they don't know they've got a problem. They don't really believe it. They tell themselves the same old story. Oh, I haven't got a problem. Oh, I only drink at weekends. But they are stuck in that loop.
Yeah.
And when they're hungover on the Saturday, when they're feeling like crap, they've got so much shame and guilt, and they beat themselves up, and they say, "I'm not going to drink." The classic line, "I'm not going to drink again," and then they just go through that same old cycle. But they've been doing it for decades, and it's so deeply embedded in their subconscious,
Yeah.
that yeah, it's got to get quite bad before it's going to get better.
Yeah.
And I think through our content, through the things that we're doing, hopefully we can help those grey area drinkers. I mean, I personally help grey area drinkers nip it in the bud before it gets too bad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. What's something unexpected that sobriety has brought into your life?
Unexpected, definitely sleep for me.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so when I started getting into self-development, I got a health watch, so I was recording my heart rate variability.
Yeah.
And when I was drinking, it was telling me that I was ill, basically. So I started looking into my REM sleep, and I always thought that sleep, I was better when I drank, because obviously I just passed out.
Yeah.
But I would always wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. William Porter goes into this, doesn't he? After 5 hours, you wake up in the middle of the night. So now, Abby, I cannot tell you how well I sleep. I sleep like a baby. I sleep right through the night. It is amazing. And when I get
Yeah.
up in the morning, I feel amazing. That has been massive for me. That is one of the biggest reasons that I don't want to drink again. I'm
Yeah.
scared of
Yeah.
drinking again because I love my sleep.
Yeah.
And I spoke about this so much. I look forward to going to bed now because I want to get up in the morning and go for that run, do my meditation, do my journaling, do my mindset routine. It gives you that zest for life. I feel like when you do this, you feel like a kid again. Because you've got that energy, haven't you? So that has been a massive thing for me. Sleep, and sleep, as you know, is the foundation for so many things. Yeah, definitely. It's the whole sense of calm as well. That's really surprised me. We were sat on the beach the other day here in Pill in the Isle of Man, and I was just sat there with my wife, on the chair on the beach, and I said, I'm just happy in my own skin now. I've got a real sense of calm, where whereas before I would be thinking about, I would either be drinking on the beach or I would be thinking about drinking. I was there
Yeah.
with my daughter, we were paddle boarding, and I haven't got that mental noise now. Obviously, meditation has been a big part of what I've done and the habits and routines that I've started doing now, but I haven't got that mental noise. So, yeah, that's been a big thing. Sleep and just being happy in my own skin. And I know it sounds so cliche, it sounds so corny, but it's so, so true. Having that extra time as well. Time is the most precious asset. We always want more time. But when you
Mm.
stop drinking, not only have you got more time because you're not drinking, I always look at it as we're going to live longer as well. So we're actually extending our life. And it's the whole self confidence thing. I spoke about fake confidence earlier with alcohol. I'm so much more confident in myself now. I can walk into a room, shoulders back, head held high, and I haven't got to think about where's the bar to have a
Yeah.
drink. I'm a lot more confident in myself, Abby.
Yeah,
Definitely.
awesome. Awesome. That's so cool. It's such a cool story. What would you give like three little bits of advice to any dads out there that are kind of thinking that they might want to maybe they have had some little thoughts that they're drinking too much and but they just don't know where to start and they've got that masculinity idea and of asking for help and what would you say to somebody like that that's listening?
I would definitely start off with saying you're not alone on this journey. Find support, whether it's a coach, whether it's a group. There's always going to be someone that understands it. I spoke about social media earlier. It gets a bad rap, but there's so much good content out there now.
Yeah.
5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was completely different. Uh, I've spoke about it earlier. Focus on what you're going to gain. Yeah, don't what you're going to lose. Just think of all the energy you're going to get, the clarity, the confidence that you're going to build, and the example that you're going to set for you and your family. You're not going to be waking up with that anxiety feeling, with the guilt, with the shame. Focus on what you're going to gain, and start small as well. Don't be overwhelmed. One day at a time, one step at a time. For me, it obviously started with Dry January. Set yourself small, manageable goals. I really, really, truly believe after 6 months of doing it, you'll wish that you'd done it years and years ago. And remember, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be perfect. Just take that imperfect action. And there's never going to be a right time. So many people wait for the right time.
Mm.
I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was saying to me, "Ah, oh, but Luke, I've just had Glastonbury. I've got another holiday coming up. I've got this. I can't just stop drinking now." And I said to him, I said, "Rob, when's there going to be a good time?" I said, "Soon it's going to be autumn and it's going to be Christmas, and of course you need to drink then as well." I said, "You just got to bite the bullet and get on with it, mate." I said,
Yeah.
"If you want to do it, if it's that much of a problem, then just do it. Just get on with it." And so many people they wait for that perfect time, don't they?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so of course it's hard, but I really truly believe you've got to choose your hard.
Yeah.
Quitting drinking is hard, but staying stuck in those same old routines and patterns, that's hard as well.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
if I found that anything in life that's truly worth having is hard. Uh, yeah, I really swear by discipline now. Anything in life. Examples being, if you're disciplined with money, you're going to have more money. If you're disciplined in your health, you're going to live longer. And sobriety is the same. If you're disciplined in sobriety, then it will change your life for the better.
Mm.
Well, we only ever grow in discomfort, don't we, Abby? And
Yeah.
that's just a few of the little golden nuggets that I would tell dads. It's not going to be easy, but staying in the same cycle. You're here for a reason. You're listening to this for a reason. So
Yeah.
take those small steps. So many people. I love the saying. So many people they want the view, but they're not willing to take the climb. And it's so so true. Just
Yeah.
start climbing. start chipping away and taking those small incremental steps. And then when you look back, you'll say, wow, oh my God, look how far I've come. And
Yeah.
give yourself that pat on the back as well. Don't beat yourself up. If you do relapse, if you do fall off the wagon, then we're human. Everyone's going to have those moments, but keep on chipping away, because your life on the other side of sobriety is going to be effing amazing. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. Okay. Well, I'm gonna get your contact details, but where can everybody reach you if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, so the best place to find me would be Instagram, Luke James Coaching. I got my own website as well, lukejamescoaching.com. So yeah, come and find me, come and have a look at my content, and look forward to being in touch.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been really cool, and congratulations on 7 months. That's so epic. But yeah, I'll just finish off. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you to Luke for jumping on with me for a chat. Next week we've got our usual very short tips and tricks episode, and then the following week we'll have yet another guest interview. So I will put all of Luke's contact details on the show notes, and my dog is whining right next to me, and I can apologize if you can hear that, because she needs her dinner, so she's giving me the evils. But it's lovely to talk to you, Luke, and thank you so much for your time. I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Abby. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Thank you.